it starts moving. Did you say something? Would be better to have a couple cameras.
What kind of camera?
No, it would be better to have a couple of cameras. Can you stay here, take a picture, and just watch that? It's probably happening when I'm over there.
I wouldn't do it now.
not sure what voltage it is, but there is a possibility of X-rays coming from it. Just
From that right little tube?
yeah.
It would affect the camera if it, would it affect the camera?
No, us, you, me. I'm just saying it because I take a little cover behind this. Because of the ozone we smell, you know, so yeah. Is there high voltage on the tube?
I think a little high voltage on the tube there. I was saying it.
Okay.
I could hear a bit of a strange noise and visual.
I was just thinking, because I know how much voltage that I can, that might be some X-rays.
Noise and visual.
I was just thinking, because I know how much voltage that I can, that might be some X-rays.
Noise and visual.
I was just thinking, because I know how much voltage that I can, that might be some X-rays.
Noise and visual.
I was just thinking, because I know how much voltage that I can, that might be some X-rays.
I took a visual in there and see what's cooking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what TV screen is kind of small, but
Oh, well,
But the water was, waving.
splashy even. Ah.
Oh, now we're moving.
Is it moving?
Yeah.
The curtain just waved a little bit.
Yeah, it seems.
Is your camera running?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Look at that pendulum.
Right.
Oh, oh, whoa! Hang on to the chain. I don't want.
And this time I got it on tape, huh? Because last time I was focusing on the screen.
Oh, now it's. Oh, wow. Oh, the water, the battleship's moving.
Yeah.
Battleship? Yeah, there's a little model battleship there.
It's not so easy to find stuff like that.
Oh, watch it. It's gonna knock. Whoa. It's got. Ooh.
No, he moved it backwards. Yesterday it really knocked on it.
What's in there? Is that a heavy weight or is it just a kettle?
No, it's heavy.
That stuff is all connected. You don't have too much power.
It's just high voltage.
Oh yeah, but you're gonna bust the vacuum tube if
Yep. Won't be too good for the tube to fall over.
How they were made, what is it then? No, I don't know. This is them. And I hope you get some more information before I go. Well, I think the thing is I've come over. Okay. When
Have you seen George's new book written about me? It's pretty rough.
George?
Hathaway?
No, I didn't. And
That's good.
any roughness should be his own.
Yeah.
I never saw such a mishandled project in my whole life. And it starts with the Prince right on down. And I tried my best. Funny story. I think it's funny. I'll tell it right now. Like it or not. You can cut it. But I was working with and for the Prince, like a lot of people.
Or the print.
The Prince, Prince Hans Adam, Liechtenstein. And John impressed me as a person that could do some things of value. He didn't know quite how he was doing them, perhaps. Give him some space, give him what he wants, let him figure it out, let him do what he can do while he can still do it. You know, this was at the time that the technical stuff was pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't into the TV promotion side of this very much.
Right.
So I had a lot of faith in you being able to do it. And I remember one session that we had at your place.
When was that?
Don't know.
19...
Yeah.
95, I think.
18 was definitely out. 20 hadn't come yet, but 19 something. And we were just musing over, you know, what do we need? What makes us move? And John, for the longest time, just sat almost in trance. And finally he said, sunshine. And then reduced it very clearly to California. And somewhere on the coast, you know. Those are pictures I understand very well. Didn't need more than those few words, you know, to say everything. But that set me off on a crusade, if you will, to get the Prince to support John, or whatever it took, and it wouldn't be that much, on the coast in California where the sun shines well, you know. And that's all the whole thing was. And I jumped on the Prince, and I was unprincely about it, to say the least. We've been together quite a bit and worked on some things with him jointly. I knew how he functioned pretty well. I knew in some areas that he was wavering on his belief. He would have to be nudged pretty hard, so I started nudging. And we communicated entirely by mail, only just U.S. Mule, you know, kind of thing. It would take about a 2-week turnaround time. And I noticed it started out with the usual signatures on the bottom of Hans. Everybody knows him, call him Hans. He responds to Hans. And the more I drilled him, the tougher these signatures got. Hans Adam. Hans Adam Liechtenstein. Prince Hans Adam Liechtenstein. And finally I got the last one, I guess, is Prince Hans Adam Liechtenstein the third. Okay, you're not going to go for John thing. And so we didn't talk a lot about anything after that. So that was my shot at trying to get John what he needed, what I knew he needed. He knew what he needed enough to say the key words. Mm-hmm. All right, my job was to try to supply it. Easy to do, but couldn't pull the Prince over the hump. He was
What was
too much.
Hathaway's? Was Hathaway in there?
Hathaway
Was
was
his
kind
agent,
of a
wasn't he?
senior technical advisor to the Prince, is what
Yeah.
you look at it. The technical meaning, not theoretical. That might have been put off.
Gatekeeper.
But
Yeah.
Hathaway had far too classic a background. He's far too classic in his approach to things. Every bit of the work that he's done has been what I'd call just dead classic. You know, go look it up. You know, that's all that you're doing is just piecing together things that you can look up. You know, John is working on something you can't look up. You can't piece it together if you can't find the parts. And that's the kind of stuff I worked on. And I knew the rules. You guys are wrong. You cannot get the kind of answers you want doing things the way you do them. And why? Well, largely they're afraid of losing their academic connections. Because what we have to do to make progress in our field is to be very non-academic.
Okay, we have to do in our field. Who are we?
We're anyone that's in lead science, anyone that's out there in the exploratory science, if you will. Exploratory science cannot tolerate the rules of academia. They will perish. They won't find anything of value. It's so easy not to find stuff, and you never even know what you didn't find. That's the hell of it. So,
So what are your rules now?
rules are generated very slowly over a long period of time. I can enumerate a few of them, but most of them are in the way I actually work. I can see some division lines. I can see what it takes to be an academician. I know what size project you can work on. It can't be too big. I know that you have to publish because that's the only way of carrying on a project that's cut up in little tiny pieces. You have to assemble it somewhere else. So you must publish. So it's publish or perish. But what it does for the science world is publish and perish. I mean, it kills things because I don't even use a notebook. I can't rely on writings of any kind to help me. They're almost all negative effects. They take energy out of you without putting any back in. I only want to learn enough to climb to the next level of progress and be given the grace of standing there long enough to catch my breath before I have to rise again to the next level. So I step as often as I can. And my only guidelines are just that. What's it take to move forward? And you can look around you and there's so many things that people do in the normal science world that is just retarded when you get right down to it. It holds you back. You must not, and that generates a list that's miles long. Must not mess with patents. They're useless to take you to the next step. Oh, they're supposed to go get you money for somebody that's going to pay you to get to the next step. Save your time. Don't do all that other stuff and just do the work it takes to get to the next step. You'll be there quicker. And
Do you have patents?
a lot of patents from things I did in the past that I was required to by the system that I operated in that I don't have to worry about anymore.
What system did you operate in before?
Borderline academic. It basically was a commercial system. Commercial system demands patents because it's supposed to make money. Patents are supposed to help you make money. Well, I finally decided that you have to forget the money part, really, because almost everything in the money part drags you down, keeps you from moving to the next step. You'll spend more time promoting to get a few bucks.
Well, it's interesting because this is what that's
And I'm not
been John's mantra from the beginning is, I don't care about the money, I don't care about the money.
No, I'm not even a scientist.
He has to not care at least as much as he can afford.
Yep.
Now, I can support myself in science endeavors if two things. If I don't do it the usual way, like I have to build everything that I use and we have an instrument. Academia says you have to have a instrument that's qualified, that produces results that somebody else understands. Well, sure, that's nice if you want to give your competitor a jump on you, because that's what it amounts to in some ways of looking at it. But I have to build all my instruments partly because that's what a frontier bit of science demands. Frontier instruments for frontier science. You can't buy anything of value. You can buy something that's way off in left field and try to adapt it to your frontier needs. But you're going to spend more time doing that than you would have if you'd just taken the next dang step and moved on.
What are you building now?
Look it up on the web.
Oh, should I look up Ken Childers? What are you building now?
Just Ken Shoulders will do. About within the first three things, you'll get a website that I post stuff on.
So you post all your results up on a website?
I post the results that I want posted. Now, A large part of that is patent oriented, but it's inverse orientation from what you do if you were a commercial outfit. I put the stuff up that I want in public domain
Yep,
that will never stop me from doing what I'm doing,
that's right.
that other people can do freely,
Right.
which will aid me. I'm glad to see them do it. I'll even help them a little bit. But I sure as hell don't put the good stuff up there. That's for sure. But
Look, just,
The website's very descriptive too.
and
It
the
explains a lot.
website is kenshoulders.com?
nope,
That's the website.
KRS, CFS. It's just a list. That's all I need. I just need a list of things to send people to look up.
Okay.
My world is a different world. Anybody that's going to do different stuff, new stuff, has to separate themselves from the community of bankers in science. They will not think forward, they think dollars. Dollars are almost always moving backwards.
So, along the lines of Tesla, along the lines of, who would you compare? You know, I know John and you working together, but who would you compare if you're gonna, it's awful, my work is so different than everybody else's, but.
My work is so different from anybody else's.
That's right. So who else, can you say, well, you know, if we didn't have somebody doing frontier science X, we wouldn't be here today. So give us an idea of who a frontier scientist is that you've been.
But I pushed microelectronics long before microelectronics was ready to be born. And nobody wanted to hear about it because I talked to commercial people mostly. Nobody wanted to do any of it because it costs money and it's not going to pay. Until I accidentally, through multiple probings, dropped in on MIT one day, just the right time. By the right time, I mean there was money available. They suddenly had a need for what they thought would be micro stuff. They didn't have a foggy notion about what to do about it. So I took all the stuff that I developed in my own shops. I've always had a nice little shop that I could do things in. I brought all that forward into MIT, developed it up to a certain level with horrible inefficiency. I could just see, or horrible efficiency, whichever. It wasn't very good, but you know, I got clear out of it.
Is that where you guys met?
I made it for everything.
Yeah.
I was a college graduate and I was a
Oh.
liberal arts major, French major.
Okay.
I had a job as, I'll put quotes around it, technical assistant at the old Barta building, which had one of the first
Well, that was Whirlwind, one of the first.
Whirlwind magnetic core computers.
Oh, worst.
One of the first ones. A really ancient machine, and we took people on tours of the building, stuff, and we had a little spiel to do.
But she made the mistake of showing
Yeah.
up over in John Linville's laboratory, and John Linville had become the administrative director of this
Bill
project.
Linville, not John.
Yeah, sorry, John was the guy at West Coast. But basically she
Engineering.
appeared
He was in the
one day.
engineering
and a little group of us, I said, that's for me. So that was the end of it. And that was 58 years ago,
Oh,
God knows
God.
how many. It's a while. So
It's a wonder we're still married.
it was a good call, though. It was really good. What I was saying is this, historically, I was at the very frontier of microelectronics. I moved from there to from MIT to SRI, made the process progress faster and bigger, and Microsoft just took off. And I was at the technological level. I made the instruments, the machine, process it, everything that goes.
We changed a lot of machines too, quadruple mass spectrometer.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that was a commercial sideline. I needed a spectrometer, so I made one of the right kind. Nobody else had them. And couple of guys were in next door, decided they'd put in a business on the basis of what they saw. And they did. The business eventually grew into Finnegan Matt, which was a German company. Matt had bought Finnegan Instruments out. They're the world's largest supplier of mass spectrometers now, and have been for a few years. It was my little gizmo. For 20 years, it didn't change a bit hardly. They just made it easier to use. But anyhow, I saw that field grow. I know what caused a lot of the death and what made the good stuff go, and what wrong turns were taken and all that. So I've had a chance to watch our field grow several different times, and I am trying to take all the steps I can, make sure that this field, this EVO business, doesn't grow the wrong way. And it's darn hard to steer it there.
Okay.
That is the game.
What is the game is to have the EVO knowledge be used for positive things instead of
Yes.
weapons of
I
mass
think-
destruction?
As far as I'm concerned, there's got to be a universal law that says whatever you do good, it's got an equal bad side. So sure, there'll be a lot of positive things, and there are some just plain dark, black things that are going to happen too. That's because people let it happen or cause it, so you count on it. If it's very hard to do some of the evil things, then they'll apply more energy to it, and finally they'll balance out. But whatever it is, there are plenty of bad things to be had.
What
Why?
what
Because
things could happen with E EVO?
it has the ability to penetrate stuff and then explode within inside something, and it's incredibly energetic, just unimaginably powerful. It's so that you shoot through stuff if you want to get something on the other side. It doesn't hurt anything on the way through, but boy, it sure creates a commotion on the other side. It's a kind of a gun, but it's a gun you don't have to reload. It just shoots, and an incredible amount of total energy can be poured out. So its destructive power is almost planetary in extent. It's big stuff.
What's the positive things that can be used for?
You name something you want that's good, and it'd probably be the thing that does it for you. If you say anti-gravity, propulsion properties are just incredible. It will be able to push anything you want, anywhere you want. It enshrouds stuff. This is all written in some of these things on the web. When it enshrouds things, it can allow them to disappear. It does make atoms disappear in laboratory work. Well, that's interesting, because when they disappear, I can transport all this stuff through somewhere else, and it reappears. That's teleportation. So it does that very nicely. It's an energy source, just incredible. We can forget all of our energy problems. We can forget all our propulsion problems. The good side of some of that is that it will allow interaction with humanoids, interaction with biological species, oids in general. So this interaction, I don't know how far it goes, but I believe you'll be able to enter a body with these things in their dark state, adapt to what that body is, and extract it to become another one of those things externally. That's not got a good name in the spirit world, where most of these stories originate. But it's a form of transmutation, if you want to look at it that way. It's a form of teleportation of sorts, because it can take an entity and put the entity over there by copy and techniques, or it could be move techniques, is related to computer language. The copy and paste one gets you there in a hurry. It's superluminal, it looks like. Things go faster than light. We're not bound by that rule anymore.
And how much of these theories have you documented actually happening?
I don't document anything as a theory. I make a measurement and put a name on the measurement. Now, I might have to make a false name up to keep it from interfering with the existing name. Nomenclature in science is a bad, long story. Bad nomenclature. So I try not to make any new names if I can avoid it, but I'm often forced to. Like this effect of teleportation. We'll start back simpler. I don't have to change any names on transmutation. It is just flat out transmutation. With a funny exception, there are never any hot species.
Hot species.
I never create any radioactive species,
Okay.
whereas transmutation is normally thought of as a hot species. As you will tend to make hot ones more often than you would neutral species. Not hot. But isotopically is the only way we can speak when we talk transmutation. And we use an instrument called a mass spectrometer. I do those well. Mine, anybody else's, any work you want to go to in the literature that other people have said, we have a funny thing going on here, fellas, we got transmutation. Well, you're not supposed to get that. That takes a lot of energy. And we're not putting a lot of energy in. But you're transmuting, therefore, you're putting the energy in somehow. That's a whole separate question, is what is this class of writings you do? I don't write for memory purposes. That is, I rarely ever go back and read anything. I write for projective purposes. I have a partial idea, and I can develop that idea out into a more complete form that maybe others that follow would want to read about and look at. But so I do write to expand a notion. But as far as I'm concerned, it's dead as soon as it's written. I just move right on. But those that are selected to be presented, maybe 1 in 50 such writing, are put on that list. And they're never academic in nature. They never publish lists of numbers or things like that that have to do with, that would make a paper that would be qualified as an academic paper. It's a notion, a bunch of notions laced together, ideas. Like one of the recent ones is something of interest. In measurements, I was seeing some very strange things happen to these dark black EVOs. They're ones that are almost chargeless and just about to disappear from this universe, which is one of the funny, freaky things. If you let them alone, they will get cooler. That's a term that's got to throw in here. But they will get blacker and blacker, less and less charged, till they're gone. Now, electrical engineering does not allow charge to disappear, but it does in this multiple particle form. See, an EVO is a cluster, one way of thinking of it, of electrons. And, you know, physics says, well, yeah, you can get Cooper pairs at 2. We got muons and we got maybe tauons beyond that. They're all just clusters of electrons of larger size. But heck, they rarely go above hundreds. And I see them into the billions with no trouble at all. So I'm working with a way upscale class of guys. They're physically large enough to see. They're about a third the diameter of a hair. But what are you seeing? Well, usually it's a result of their interaction with something else. You blow something to kingdom come, then you look at the crater size. Oh, that was a 5 micrometer one. And ooh, look at there, there's a 20. And it's my present job is to get them bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's tied up with safety very much. So I have over-worried the problem. I think I've got way too much safety built into my world.
So you're,
Fascinating stuff. They're building bigger and bigger, Ken?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that big, even a third of
I don't have them as big as that.
No, I mean like a third of the size of a hair. That's
Oh, that's what normal ones are. That's easy.
wow.
I've been able to use these techniques of these little bitty machines that I make to get them up to 100 micrometers so far without anything really awful, unless I make a intentional move to blow them up.
Mhm.
I can make them explode. And I didn't think I'd ever get to that part. I thought I'd be at 20 micrometers plus, and they'd be blowing up and I couldn't stop it.
Oh my goodness.
But no, they'd rather, under the conditions I build them and hold them in,
Mhm.
they'd rather live. And or, if you don't attend them, they will just fade away and disappear. They're gone.
Are they living?
It's really,
You
really.
said they'd rather live. Are they living?
Not by our definition of life.
No.
They exist. You know, I think, therefore I am. I haven't seen any looking back at me winking or anything like that. So they aren't that kind of alive. But boy, they have law, they have association, they have every kind of law that I necessarily have to obey to exist. They have the same kind of existence. They have their boundaries. I have my boundaries. As long as I maintain the cradle, I call this thing, I work with them in, and certain parameters exist on the cradle. They live. They exist, at least.
Did you create them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I started out with baby ones. That's just a technique I happen to have. That's old. I start with tiny, tiny ones and watch them grow. And I can grow them, grow them.
How
And
do they feed? What do you feed them?
more electrons. They eat electrons. They become electrons. The latest paper will,
Are they and they're in a vacuum?
they can be just about anywhere, but the vacuum is handy for me because I can analyze them in a vacuum. They can exist in a solid. They live, I think, in some of John's earlier work in the middle of a metal. And I've seen other papers that show things like that. And many of the cold fusion guys have probably created them and kept them overnight. When they come in the next morning, they blow to smithereens. But I think they did some wrong things. They didn't have to do those things.
Do they exist anywhere and everywhere?
Very ubiquitous things, extremely so. You can shuffle across this rug, touch the doorknob, get a little spark, and you will have created them. They will be little marks on that doorknob that are the witness marks that I talk about. They are just everywhere. You get out of your car, rub across the seat, snap. You just made one. You thought you were just an electric spark. Oh yeah? Go look carefully at where it struck. Carry off that piece of stuff, analyze it in an electron microscope. You'll find all kinds of witness marks that look just exactly alike.
Witness marks,
Tracks.
tracks.
Well, they're not a track per se, they are a mark. They have tracked up to that point and exploded. So,
And they explode and they're gone.
in that case, they're real, they explode, they break down into lots of little electrons and lots of ions. That's what the flash of light is. It's the ionic spectrum of that explosion. And no more.
So John, what do you think about this whole thing and how it relates to the Hutchinson effect?
I kind of, Ken is a scientist, I'm not a scientist, and I see that he studied some of the earlier work, and I've seen in some microphotographs some similar kinds of unique.
So you think that from your analysis of John's metal samples that he had these exotic EVOs operating inside of those transmutated metals?
I'll back up a little further. Yes, I do think they're the major cause of everything he's done with propulsion, transmutation, you name it. They stem from this effect. Now, I strictly shied away from using large machines as John makes and uses, Tesla coil-like things, because I couldn't figure out what was going on with the base process. There's a big gap in my ability to go from where John's machine is to the base knowledge that I have now. So I had to use different techniques, and that made us draw apart. If I had the guts enough, I might have jumped on a John-like machine, homemade or otherwise, kept modifying it and kept modifying it until I got a better understanding of what was going on. But instead of doing that, I just skipped right on into the basic stuff from where I discovered it, and started building up. So I was using what you might call the bottom-up technique, and he was working with the top-down method. And I had, just due to my background, I had no ability to do that. I didn't feel like I had. So I built up from the bottom. It puts me in a class of screwball scientists. If I had done it from the top down, I'd be called a garage crank or something like that, you know.
Now you're just a screwball.
I'm just a screwball now.
You're going to be a crank or screwball.
I don't know if they call me, but
I'd still be a crank coordinator.
I don't care what they call me. I just
Yeah.
kind of I love the history of the Tesla tech and other technologies, just to replicate it, which I did do and played with it, and then I guess halfway in Pizarro came in and pushed me to go on.
Misdirected everything.
All right, so now
They really wanted
you
to-
gave an opinion, misdirected. Now tell me why you think it was misdirected.
It was not malicious. It was done in order to conform with both their own experimental method and their own techniques that they understood, and to conform with the direction, either spoken or not, of the sponsor.
And who was the sponsor?
Hans Adam.
So Hans Adams wanted something out of the John Hutchinson experience.
He wanted to fertilize and feed several things that would become the defining devices or engines for the UFOs. He was really after what is the UFO engine like, where they get their propulsion from. Or maybe he would have said the anti-gravity technique. I would not say that. I would just say propulsion. But that want, maybe it wasn't stated overtly, but it certainly communicates easily to people like Padal and Hathaway, because it's the standard method. So it propagated into John's bedroom, and to where you now are doing things the standard way, by decree. And you don't get told what to do exactly, maybe, but you get leaned on so gently that finally you're off course. You will do it to yourself. I do it to myself. Whenever I work for anybody else, I try to sense what are their needs and conform to some degree, always keeping a portion for yourself, as yourself. But this confirmation is deadly to progress.
What confirmation?
The conforming
Well, the conforming.
confirmation. But it is a killer in terms of new science. Because nobody wants to take a risk. They get it out of their monetary, their business world. There you manage risks like crazy. But when you're in this world, you're bare naked. And sometimes it's far better to take a risk. You know, take a big risk, all that you can afford. And that will get you somewhere, or nowhere. You can go back to zero. See, John has taken big risks when you get right down to it. He's hung out in lots of different ways, as I have and am. I take risks like crazy. I have to start out with an attitude, if you will, of if you're a banker, you've got to be the devil himself. You know, if you're associated with a business, you're wrong to start with. What are you fooling with me for? You know, I don't make businesses. But I do. I'm the creator that businesses spring from. You can say, well, for assurance, that almost all microelectronics stuff we see, I was the father of, and I've been granted that I am the father of vacuum nanoelectronics. There's a big plaque somewhere, there's an award with my name on it, there's all this, that, and the other stuff. But it's past history. I took a risk. Instead of milking that field, which I could have, I'd still do it. I say, no, I will be better off. The world will be better off if I operate independently. So, goodbye schools, goodbye companies, goodbye everybody. And the fact is, you were about to ask me who would I look up to or who would I be with.
Actually, I asked that about 2 hours ago.
Yeah. I don't forget that. But you didn't get an answer because there isn't one, really.
Okay.
I used to associate with some good old fellows. I was always the kid of the baby. And these guys were great, I used to think. But when I now go through and look at what they really did, wasn't that great? But that was the system they were in. And they were in the academic system largely. So they were just being academic.
Well, there's been a non-academic that you felt has,
Well, I don't mind pawing through that as a question. I'll just go in and play bumper ball, you know, ricochet off the first one wall and another, trying to find an answer to this. I'll start with a few knots. I can take the top list of everybody that I know of in cold fusion, for example. That's supposed to be a forward-moving field. It's dead in the water. They really are bad. If I took a list of the top guys in that business or ex-business, I named guys like Storms, McCoubrey, Miley. Now, all those and everybody of their ilk, I know well. I've associated with closely. And when I look at what they do, I have very little admiration for it. I guess I put Storms at the top of the list of those that seemingly survived all the pitfalls and perils of being a high echelon in the field. And that's about it on that bunch. Base physics, I don't talk to those people anymore, so I don't know who they are. I know of several gorgeous errors that are propagating.
what
now.
errors are those?
Sonofusion,
What's that?
sono anything that they do. Their belief in the fact that ultrasonics can make these little bubbles that when they break, they emit light and they do all these wonderful little things. It's nothing but an EVO generator. That's all they got. They have had a charge separation process to form the bubble. It would bang. When it would bang, of course, it raised all the hell that these little things raised. That's nothing new, nothing novel. But they couched all the results in such a way that they fit the academic world. And they publish this, and they publish that, and they publish the other thing. All wrong. The same kind of thing happened down at the very respectable, they're called, well, they're in San Diego, they're the Star Wars or Spar Wars group. Very scientific bunch doing cold fusion-like work, attributing almost everything to neutron emission, and they don't know how in the heck to measure neutrons. They have EVOs, is what they've got.
Okay, so they have EVOs and they don't know they have EVOs?
They won't admit they've got it. Now, guys like McCoubrey stand on the side of the stick poking them. Hey, you guys, those that are really probably not neutrons, you ought to quit publishing that they are. You're killing your reputation. Think about this. Well, they don't. They can't. They're involved in the system. The system says, you said this is what it was. That's a vector that points in that direction, and you don't dare change the direction, or you're dead. And that's true. They can't unpublish the results they've published already in any reasonable way.
But you talk about publishing, so then how, now that you're on this frontier,
Those people are in cold fusion, which demands it correspond to the academic method, which requires it be published.
but you're publishing, right?
No, I don't consider that publishing. It won't get published in the standard journals, in the so-called peer-reviewed journals.
Or
You
posting.
You tell me, it's a posting, it's a listing, but you tell me where I can find a peer. That's what you're asking for. Who is my peer? What do I consider to be peers? Who could critique what I'm doing? Well, I know some people that can, but they maybe even shouldn't, because it's bad for your reputation, and it's not rewarding. You can't get a job in the field because there's no field. You know, there's nothing good about it.
I wasn't asking who your peers were as much as if you were to parallel another person in history to your work as far as your thought processes, who would you
I
parallel?
was trying to dig
Someone
into
who
that.
thinks
I was
so
having
too.
such a poor time of it. I'll have to quote somebody else. Rutherford, a scientist type, English scientist.
So these VOs are circulating torids?
He says no. Something you have to get used to. People misquoting you by miles.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Do you think they're quantum mechanical black holes, white holes?
Quantum mechanical is a buzzword. If you're going to write something, you got to put a buzzword in it. So that was his.
Well, people have to understand it.
Do you think they are black holes, white holes?
They're black holes, in one of my notes, in that they contain all the characteristics a black hole does. They swallow material, make it go away. And that's what they do.
Astrophysics talks about black holes,
Big black holes usually,
big
but
black holes.
they don't disallow little ones. And I say
Yeah.
same thing all the way down.
It goes in, and where does it go out?
The gazelle hole and the gazelle hole.
Where does it go out?
It goes into another universe. There's another writing on that subject. Now that's where you get spooky. I don't believe in other universes.
I don't
but
either.
damned if I don't believe I see them go away. So they left where I am. If they went somewhere else, I got to assign that a place.
You just don't have the vision
I
to
can bring them back
see it.
as long as they don't go too far.
Wow.
Why
If
would
I
a
take
human
them down
being be
too
able
far, they're gone.
I think that we're not perceiving. I think that, like John and I
Right.
talk about this a lot, is that there's one universe, we're just seeing just a sliver of it. That's the only thing.
Oh, okay, well that.
that I can believe
We are
very much.
able to move these things in and out of our sliver.
Right on.
It's called the multi-universe theorem. So, okay.
But you're using, humans are quite limited.
Oh my God, we're trapped in this little tiny sliver.
I do a lot of out-of-body stuff.
Okay, well, these things allow you to move out of this whole universe body stuff. So, they're manipulatable on an atomic scale at this point. No gross stuff. No mice have disappeared. But that guy said, shoulders is like Rutherford. So, okay.
Well, no, that's someone else. I didn't ask for somebody else's opinion in theory. I asked for your opinion in theory.
We're gonna have to dig some more than Deary. Damn it.
What,
I don't know any, or I would have said it, and I'm not holding anything back. Now, I can say a few things I think are not true, maybe you can make them true. I don't see a comparison to Tesla. Why did I say that? Because I don't know anything factual about Tesla. I read about a lot of these crazy things people say he does and did. Show me. Because I only accept what I can do, and I haven't done Tesla things. So, you know, I can't validate what he did. It's a terrible situation to not know a parallel. I would like to know one. I would like to know somebody,
Van Gogh.
but, you know,
Van Gogh. It's Van Gogh, Van Gogh. Van Gogh. I would say Van Gogh.
okay.
Why?
I can't make that statement, so I don't know.
So you can see that?
Mm-hmm.
There are
He
many
was
similar.
crazy.
there are
No,
many-
it wasn't.
He wasn't, he was touched on in different,
Well, they, they say he was, schizophrenic, and that's why he was able to see the different colors. I'm just saying that Ken sees the different colors.
Oh, I see entirely different ways than other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have to. I keep it as a job to do. I have things I must not do.
Why?
It will wreck the technique that I use.
Yeah, well,
Boy, do I adhere to a methodology, you betcha. Am I afraid of certain things? Paralyzed.
Paralyzed.
Yeah.
Why?
It will wreck my technique.
Now he's got a box.
No,
Focus.
these are guidelines. They're
Yeah.
well open. They're rails I can hold on to when I'm out in the
all
Jungle,
definitions.
awful place to be if you're not protected or given a guideline.
What if your guidelines are wrong, Ken?
Then I take another guideline, for God's sake, you dummy. You think I want to ride this one into the rails? No, it is very clear to me that I've got techniques that work. I have to keep them honed and keep them sharp. I do lots of things to keep that going. And I believe very much in subconscious, subliminal thinking, if you will.
Yeah?
I go to bed with a problem. I wake up with a solution.
Do you work on your third eye?
Screw the third eye. I wouldn't trust it. It's only an eye. You know, I work on everything I've got. And
He
I
gets into
can-
almost a trance.
Yeah, well, I find that really a lot of things people have said from Eastern religions is true. I can stay on the edge of the region between sleep and awakeness and do the best job I can do. That one really gets me some mileage. But the trouble is, if you lose your training a little bit, you go to sleep too much. You know? On the other hand, you stay fully too conscious, you're not going to get anywhere. I get up 5 times a night. Largely it's because I like breaking the sleep routine. Because every time I get at that boundary, I gain a little bit. And I hang on to it. And I keep on moving that way. I like this form of subliminal thinking. It's stupid because I don't think until I'm back awake. And then it's not awake thinking so much as it is just jotting down what you just hear.
how long do you stay up for, Ken, when you wake up?
Till I cool down. I can measure it as a temperature. I go back to bed,
Yeah,
I feel a little bit hot.
okay.
And after a little bit, I get cool and sleep right after that, or back into that thing. But I've got to work quick in that narrow zone. And this chair gives me more time than a bed does.
Okay.
It's less comfortable, I think, or something like that. But I can keep a certain position in the chair, think about a particular problem, and for a moment, I can do some good with it. And it's either back up, away.
And
I remember when Ken came back and with one of your samples,
Yeah.
and he was really,
It didn't work that way, Claire.
Puzzled.
Claire,
He
generously.
I remember.
The sample was mailed.
well, whatever.
Mailing it, I think.
It was a piece of metal,
Yeah.
and
And I saw stuff on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to
didn't know
discharge
how it
all
had
that,
happened.
that work because I didn't do it. I keep my eye on these
But
things.
it really
they're funny.
puzzled you as to how it, you couldn't
But
figure it
I
out.
couldn't explain the key part.
Right,
I could explain the marks on the outside, but I couldn't explain stuff that I found myself inside.
now you think,
Right.
now you think you can.
Sure, yeah, easy. These things penetrate metal like crazy. Another paper on the list.
was a big,
It's penetrating metal and mutating it?
It penetrates metal,
yeah.
it gets nasty mad at some point maybe, at which point it explodes. It dishevels, I should say. It may also create a really high pressure, but it certainly dishevels. And the parts come out in various ways. Some are highly altered, and transmutation. And some you can say, well, this one wasn't altered at all. But you don't know whether it was altered into something else and then retransmutated back. It's real hard to tell. Because the efficiency of the transmutation is very high. And so when you start running some experiments, which are on the list and on the net, of these things in a little transmutation vial that I purposely don't let any new material in. It's all solids initially, and it's all pure, and it's doing a mass analysis, a mass spectrometry analysis, about every 5 seconds. You run it, look at it, and look at it again. Well, the first burst, which lasts a second, you see a few characteristic lines that are exactly equal to the powders or what material you put in there. Well, that looks good. But there are some little strange lines beginning to show up. Hit it again. More strange lines. Hit it again. More strange lines yet. Pretty soon you have transmuted the transmuted product. And pretty soon the whole baseline of the spectrometer run is filled with stuff. Whereas before there'd only been a few primary items put in there. Boy, transmutation is very obvious with that sort of thing. Because you can't blame it on external contamination. There's no way. You can't blame it on so many things that you usually do say is the cause. But just transmutation.
I like the thing we're in your home there, we're talking about the explosives you dropped on the ground. Oh, we shouldn't talk about that.
Oh, John loves
No,
explosives.
oh, never mind. I was just thinking of potassium permanganate and some of the adventures I might have had some time ago, but
Then you get red phosphorus, for instance.
Well, let's talk about the history between you guys and tell us, John, why did you want to come here to see Ken? I mean, this was one incredible ride that I
On
had.
the way, yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
not on the way. It is not on the way.
I always enjoyed.
Oh, but that last little hooky loud down by Interstate 5 where you have to cut across to 80 and then over the
indeed,
wood.
there's just no way to get across.
Not
Well,
far. It's not on the way.
Always like talking to Ken, and
That's pretty heavily chlorinated.
Oh, yes.
don't let me
I
teleprompted.
bottled water and I have some.
Yeah, we lost our coordinator. We can't help it. Wow. Gotta say some bad words.
Okay,
We're saying bad words.
bad words now. Oh well.
So, John, what's always fascinated you about Ken?
Just
Other than
a bunch
his,
of
other
things.
than his stunning good looks, what is it?
Good Lord. Get
Well,
that
I
with
like
the
the
camera
way-
broke.
I like the way Ken is honest. I like the way he talks. I like his friendship, and I like his science. So I know what he speaks of these things. I kind of understand that. Very sensitive, very end.
There are few people, very few people, that interface with things that we play with. Real hard to get a conversation going in the average group.
So you and John can have conversation
We're
about
better arranged at that than
Okay.
not. So, you go into a bar, don't expect to get an audience. That's the case for both of us, I'm pretty sure. Oh, he can get an audience out of his stage life, but I got no stage life.
Yeah, that's no stage life stuff. My stage stuff, I guess I probably could get an audience, but I just kind of feel like what Ken is saying and that, and I can tune into it, and I respect it,
In this business of who to talk to, you have to ask very selfishly, what am I going to get out of it? And there's not much you can expect.
What do you want to get out of it?
Help,
For what?
move the field, my next step, I need a bite, give me a boost.
What do you need for a boost? You don't need corporate America. The bankers are
Can't
grubbies.
afford it.
Can't afford it. So what do you need what do you need to get to the next step?
Well, actual physical motion and experimentation, but the question is really posed around what person can do what to help you get there. And I guess I'm finding more and more there aren't any. You get there by yourself or you don't get there.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I hate that in some ways because it's so counter-social. It is absolutely criminal talk almost.
What about, I mean, it goes against so much of synergism of bringing two energies of people together to create a third energy, a third force. So if you're all by yourself, all you have is yourself.
Well, that's not a singularity necessarily. Yourself.
As long as you've
is a
got
complex structure.
multiple personalities, you're fine.
Oh, there are plenty of personalities to deal with. If not personalities, effects. Things definitely can be used.
But what good is it? If it's only something that you've worked on and you want to advance this, for what reason do you want to advance it?
Well, that's a question, that I've many, many years on the wrong side of. Now try, for your purposes only, to straighten it out. I used to hate to say, I'm for advancing for social benefit, for the good of mankind.
Who you can't talk to about this.
So I can't talk to you, but I have to advance them, or I don't have any goal to reach. I have to include mankind as my beneficiary. That's all there is. I can impart a certain amount, a small amount, to my family, but it is very small.
I was basically alone in all this stuff, and I found it fun to play with it. Not really, just general major interest. Then these scientists came along and wanted to promote it to.
Well, it's another stage, as I look at it, of awareness. Like in the very first stage, it is just fun for yourself. But after a while, you begin to look around and say, well, there must be more to it than that.
What if that's all it is? What if it is just fun for Ken?
I have a certain economic necessity, let's call it. It's not to make money. It's economics of life, distribution of energies and things. And I don't allow play, I say. Of course I do, but I don't want to admit it. We don't play. We're working. So it has to be cemented in that way, or otherwise you're just liable to stop and play. And how can you measure that? I'm not getting anywhere in the main thing I was trying to do.
Well, you sound like you're stuck in a box, Ken, if you can't play.
Hell, we are in a box. We're in a box biologically. We can only take certain temperature extremes.
Yeah.
We can only take so many G's or less. We are in a box. It's just a question of shape. Now, I like my box to have some tendrils that reach way out into time.
Right.
Somewhere else. I like to pull back great mysteries, look at them over, solve them, put them God knows where, because sometimes,
Sounds like great play.
well, I do real good at that.
Let's play.
I'm one hell of a frontiersman playboy.
There you go.
No,
But-
it's definitely frontier.
But I don't admit the play part. It's the wrong word, and maybe something else has to be in there. There has to be a reward somehow wrapped up with play.
Why?
Well, you wouldn't play if there wasn't some reward in it, It's
Why?
got to work that way. Which is why stuff. Can't say why. You know.
See, the
Mommy, why?
duality of you is fascinating, Ken, because you work on this frontier scientific, and you can't have any of the other scientists who are in their boxes understand you.
Well,
And
they
then,
won't. They shouldn't.
but then I ask you, why do you put yourself in these boxes of plays and a reward
There's no choice.
and the rules? Of course there is.
No.
But see, you're doing the same thing.
Well, look,
You're doing the
if I
same
let
thing.
myself loose totally,
Yes.
I would probably start looking into, well, how does this stuff couple into religion? I
Yes.
see a little hook there.
Yes.
And how does this stuff couple into bioexcretia or whatever it is? You know, a lot of biological things are going along that I see some overlaps in.
Yeah.
One of those papers is written up in such a way.
But you can't risk doing that, Ken, because it might blow out your box.
No, it doesn't. It raises hell with efficiency.
Well,
I
damn
can't get down the road to
efficiency.
do what I can kind of imagine where I ought to be, and if I don't do this, that, and the other at a certain rate or pace, I won't get there.
Why not? Oh, that. Now, there's another restriction you put on yourself. If you play
I'm not
with,
for taking all restrictions off. I've got to restrict the hell out of myself, or I scatter. I know what diffusion looks like. I hate it. It's stuff going in all directions when you could have kind of refocused it a little bit better and got some more leverage on it.
or if you diffused, you might have gone around the other side and saw the back
I
side. of it.
remember diffusion kind of wanders around in strange ways.
Yeah,
You get to the back side by diffusing.
sure you
You
can.
do, well, there are too few things over there to work with when you are diffused. I'd rather marshal all these little things and aim them and strike home. That's it. It's all about getting power enough to get to the next step. And to do that, you don't diffuse. You focus. And that's a box. You call it a box, it's a box.
Huh.
I just want it to be a good box that I can stand on to get to the next step.
So how much of you are German? What percentage of you is German heritage?
I can't find any, although some
Yeah,
names
right.
are similar. Schuler and,
This is very much the
Probably
German
German.
word.
well, I'm not gonna give it- the Germans credit for being as good as I am at this. You know, how much are Germans of me? You know, there is a way to get somewhere if you've got this kind of thing as a goal. I got this kind of thing as a goal, so I use every trick that I can muster. And then maybe I found a lot of German parts that fell off. Stick them back
See, I
on.
think when you half sleep, you're out playing, and you just won't admit it because that's your playtime.
No, that's my hunt time.
Of course, it's play, but you're hunting and playing.
Okay, if you're gonna get it down to the hunting thing,
You're playing hunt and go seek.
I'm hunting like heck. Search.
Play is defined as enjoyment.
I do that.
You enjoy
I
doing it.
pick up
Yeah.
things, I look at them, I discard them, maybe they're too heavy to carry. I don't carry a trailer full of stuff like John. I would be going there with a handbag wherever I'm going.
If you had something that you wanted to say to people, if you, let's say, you guys left your bodies permanently tonight, what would you like to be on the record of what you said?
I didn't have to pay.
You didn't have to pay what?
Anything. I'm
Anything.
gone.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always a collector around looking for something. Not an actual bill collector. A collector of some kind.
Collectors.
Somebody that wants something you got.
And you think
Wow.
you think that that's happening, that's the synergism that we have in the society, is everybody wants something that somebody else has.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I like collecting old muskets. I think they're kind of cool things.
There you are. Well, it is. They were handmade, probably.
Yeah.
What do you collect, Ken?
Ask Claire. Everything.
You know, deep, heartfelt feelings about the man sitting to your left.
Who, me?
I wish you'd taken a shower last night.
John took one.
I took a shower.
No, I'm talking, John doesn't know the left from right either.
No, I don't.
I just was kind of saying what these
It's just your other left.
That's right, I keep saying the other left. On your left, John, look to your left.
This is my right, this is my left, okay? Yes. Oh, I can.
What would you like to say about the
John, where'd you
man
come
to your
from?
left, to the left of you? The man to the left of you, you guys keep moving away from each other like you really don't like each other.
Oh, no, we like each other, we just don't want to get
It's that shower thing.
It's that shower.
So look at the man to your left and
Yeah.
just say, tell him what you think. Tell him what you feel about, your friendship, and just
I
give
love
him
you
something.
deeply.
I love you deeply, Ken. Hey, hold on, it's back,
Looks
roll
like
up.
Comedy Central.
Roll that up there. No, I just, I've always been fascinated by
Why don't you look at it and tell him that?
Why should you?
Dr. Phil.
Let's cancel this thing.
You want to hold hands while you do this.
No.
At least look at him and tell him, say, you know,
Oh.
you were my bud and my blah, 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 and you're thick and thin, and the
Sounding like one of those directors.
EVOs and you and me.
Little shows, any show, where they show somebody busily walking down outside and going to their office, you know.
Yeah.
They always put that piece in. Now, what's that got to do with the guy, really? That he can walk? Let's
Yeah.
assume it. You know, and cut some of this tape down. So, you got your thing you want to throw in here, I can just tell. You want us to get out and walk? Show us motion? Doing something? I don't think so. Let's cut this dang thing. We've embraced enough.
You've embraced enough. As they're both putting their hands together, we've embraced enough.
Yeah, somebody that reads body language is going to say, this is a closed mind. This guy is not letting out what he should. He's keeping it to himself.
Yes, really, this is really good tape what you're doing right now too, illustrating this.
I'm doing the same thing.
That's right.
It's another meaning of some kind.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll cut it,
Yeah.
and it's been fun. We got some good stuff, I think. I think we got at least 5 minutes in there. We can
We get a few minutes out of it somewhere.
You know how
So hi, I'm Bob Greer and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, and I am here with Mr. Possible, John Hutchinson, and we have obviously discussed a lot of your effect over the last several years.
Right, yeah, we sure have.
And it's been interesting because it hasn't really ever been replicated before. We do know that one, Stoyan Sargachev, inadvertently replicated the effect by he had a solenoid. He was passing some voltage parameters through it.
Yeah, with a ferrite core, as I remember.
Yeah, it was a ferrite core. You're right.
Long, and it had a coil around it, and that was the whole core kind of morphed around a bit. At the end, I think.
And what is it about ferrite that makes it difficult to bend?
Well, it's very brittle. If you try and bend ferrite, it'll snap when you break. It's like ceramic.
And there you go. And
Yeah.
he managed to do that. So that's I would say that it was probably the first replication, but he was not able to replicate it again. It was a bit of what you call serendipity, something that just happened.
Yeah, that seems to be the case with a lot of these odd pioneering energy things that are out there and people have tried to do.
But in your case, you replicated your process many, many times over, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of determination and a lot of failures and a lot of good ones. Especially when a television crew comes in, excuse me, and you're doing it and nothing happens. Well, that's not much fun. And other times when they come in, it all happens. It's interesting. And same with the scientific community, with the U.S. government folks. Things did happen, but they interpreted wrong. Colonel Alexander seems to understand what that was about. Canadian government, things happened, but they didn't see it happen, but you could hear it happening. McDonnell Douglas, same thing. You take the 8 hours of tape, speed it up really fast. You see all kinds of things happen. So it's problematic. My first TV show was on the news and had a beautiful levitation.
And that is one of the things that have been most inspirational to people that have followed your work over the years and been curious as to how they were achieved, but then not really knowing. And so what's happened recently is your work has inspired so many people, and those people have been able to come together, and I've been fortunate enough to meet one of those called Hent Uren, and in the course of doing some plasma experiments, he has achieved what appears to be a replication of your effect.
That's awesome.
Now, it's not the kind of massive samples, it's not these kind of, there was no levitation involved, and it wasn't in free air. That's one thing that's very unique about your work, right? You were able to put samples in free air, and they did things like glow or bend or jellify, right?
Jellification effect and levitate and those kind of things. Now, mind you, it's a lot of gear, a lot of equipment.
And you also had things where it almost appeared to come out from the inside of something.
Oh, yeah. That was intriguing. It was Dr. Thurston Ludwig who filmed it. A pendulum that would
Okay.
come and disappear and come out again, kind of thing.
Right, and I saw a sample in Germany where there was a how should we say, an aluminium billet about so long, and there was kind of like a hole that had come out from the inside.
Okay, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
And also in concrete that happened, and I had to use a fire extinguisher one time to put out a fire, because it came through a hole in the ground, through the concrete, shot up in a pattern like that of fire.
Wow.
And I had a CO2 gas cylinder in that, like that.
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell is that? Why, I don't know.
But it's there. And so we have done these experiments where we found brass seems to be very reactive, and you found that often you had brass samples. I think you've actually got one of your samples down here,
Well, I have,
which was affected by brass.
Yeah,
this is brass, I think, and copper, and
well, it used to be a bar stock, as you call it. You get from the scrapyard, and because I do a lot of machine work too. I build my own things. So this piece just sort of morphed into this form, and I actually cut it with a power hacksaw into different pieces to see what happened, and also to sell them on eBay. And this thing here appears to be iron or steel, and this, for some unknown reason, is brassy here and reddish up here. Now, the original piece was solid brass.
so it was almost like the copper is separated from something, and
Yeah.
maybe got a higher concentration of zinc from the brass down here. But
kinda.
anyway, brass seems to be highly affected by this, and we have these samples here, which are kind of like, in historical terms, the first sample probably is this one, or no, this one maybe.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about this, John, is it has, when you see the video,
Right.
you see these balls. So what was happening? This is a standard piece of copper plumbing, and so you also did some things with copper as well, and it was on 2 iron plates, very similar to this iron plate over here, mild steel. So this is heavy and it's magnetic. So the magnetic structures seem to be able to capture these exotic vacuum objects, and what you see on here is these balls, these hemispherical balls, and there is actually a spherical section or circular section cut out of this, where this was lying on that iron plate.
Oh, wow.
And you can actually see these in the video with the ball forming, and it's cut it out, and it's 100% affected within the hemisphere and not affected almost at all within microns outside of the hemisphere. It's not melting, and like copper is very conductive thermally.
Oh, yeah, very hot. I mean, I worked with it, and it's very dangerous and hot if you don't know, if you're...
So the idea that something would be completely disappearing here and not affected at all a few millimeters away or microns away means that potentially this isn't hot. And you often found that when you were working with your effect, that samples looked like they were very hot, but they weren't, were they?
No, they weren't hot. They were actually cold, which is weird. I mean, you'd expect anything that emits light would be very active, you'd think.
Yeah.
And hot.
Yeah.
But no, Pizarro actually put his hand on one, and it was cold.
And was that a long time or a short time after the effect?
Well, we were doing a pre-demonstration for somebody that was coming. I forget who, but his wife made us dinner, and we put it inside the lab. We're having dinner, and we're looking at these weird little entities that Pizarro called them, appearing and disappearing in the back of the area. And then he noticed something with one of the bars, and he went over to touch it. He's got a British accent, South African.
Right.
Oh, something like that. And John, I don't know. I should tell George. He's always telling George. I don't know if he told George, but anyway, it was a bar about inch and a half, maybe about that long, and had his thumbprint and other fingerprints on it.
Wow.
And I don't know if that was pre-Canadian government tests or something. I don't know, but
so you're saying you left a fingerprint in the aluminium?
yeah.
Or aluminum for those people on this side of the pond.
I keep saying aluminum because
Aluminum.
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 I'd rather say aluminium. You know, Come on, man. I'm like, aluminium.
I think it's meant to be aluminium, isn't it? No,
Yeah,
it's
but-
aluminum. Why can't you speak properly? Indeed, I said aluminium.
One of them Canadian got a tiny bit of British in me.
But you found actually that aluminium was the most affected element.
It appeared so. Iron pieces, steel pieces, yes, they crumble or break or turn into something else. Had a lot of aluminium. Oh boy, we're going there, aren't we? Aluminium. Samples that I got from Capital Salvage in Vancouver, 1990 Triumph Street, Vancouver, British Columbia, North Star stuff. Anyway, these things I'd use for building like high voltage terminals and that kind of thing. And so I just put them on the milk crates. I had everything mostly on milk crates.
Right.
Handy to move, handy to carry.
Yeah.
And they would start to move around or just simply go like flower out like that and fall on the floor, move other things around. And so all this stuff accumulated over time. I had left, speaking of brass like that, I gave Prince Hans Adam, if it's okay to say his name,
Oh, go on.
a great gift. It was a bar that was 2 inch by 2 inch, that was
Yeah.
about that long, and it split like that.
Oh, is this the one that's like it's like a 2-inch long bar and it's kind of like split into 4 pieces?
Well, it's spread
in the
out.
center.
Like,
Yeah.
So Hans Adam.
Like you've got a piece of bamboo and you put an explosive in the middle and it's just gone like that. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I thought I'd give it to Hans Adam because they'll always send me mail and stuff. So I'll add it to your private art collection, which you did do. The other sample I had of brass was the same size, but it was all like squished up.
Right.
And Michael McCardle at CTV News has that one. He lost it, unfortunately, in the apartment when we were leaving.
Right.
He did a story on us leaving, Nancy and I. So he did a story for CTV News. We gave him that gift, and he, for some reason, lost it.
Well, here's the thing. Your work has enabled me to see that, like Ken Shoulders was able to see things in your work, and he published those things, thankfully.
Oh, God, yeah.
That those very key structures of what he called exotic vacuum objects, and they are in these samples, the very exact same structures. And we have a couple of samples here, in addition to this one, which we've talked about with the macro ball lightning structure eating the copper pipe. In this case, we've discussed this before, but it was a brass sheet. This is about 3 mil on this fairly thick, almost a centimetre thick, and it was on there at an angle, and it produces this yin-yang type structure here.
Wow.
And it is able, it would appear, to clean material off one side, which I call the breaker, and it forces it through, and there's a dimple on this side, which has not got a penetrated hole, and it's got a hole on that side, and then spray it down on the surface. Yet the edge is not melted. So again, you have an effect where you have total control of this spin nuclei, this copper 35, copper 63, copper 65, and the bit of zinc in there. I think it's a spin nuclei. It seems to be able to move, and it comes through and round, but the material very close and adjacent to it is not melted at all. And so we have a similar kind of highly localized disruption effect going on. So there's that. But what came after that is what we call the pillow.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that.
And this
All of it, actually.
this here, these two pieces were pieces of brass, just 0.75 of a millimeter thick. Yeah, and they were laid 2 on top of each other in a Vega reactor, a few 100 volts, around about 700, and a few amps, 1.5 or whatever. Field effect, field emission, produces this glow around it, and the piece of metal on top, which was actually directly on top, at some point in the experiment moved over to one side, so it was like this,
Oh, cool.
at an angle.
Cool.
But the top 0.75 mil sample actually inflated, and it looks just like a very comfy cushion, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's impressive. I am impressed. To see it in real life is very impressive.
And
That is so weird.
what Ken Shoulders said
Wow.
in the interview that your wife Nancy Lazarian recorded with you both he said that exotic vacuum objects can enshroud stuff. They can encapsulate it.
Yep.
And I've seen that on one of your 2007 samples we call Fracture. And what it's got is it's got these mesh-like of yin-yang all the way over the surface. And we've seen the same thing on a deuterium, nickel, and carbon experiment done by a UK researcher called Lion, where it covered a piece of dielectric, a piece of fused quartz, and again protected that material by enshrouding it.
So it's kind of trying to do with elimination of nuclear waste.
Yeah, well,
It wasn't when he was visiting politicians, and they were write things down, but you kind of never heard back from these characters.
and that's a great shame.
Yeah,
However, it's one of the most important things. I know it's dear to your heart, it's dear to mine, to deal with nuclear waste. And the thing is, what this process is showing, that it can seem to consume matter, and it can shift matter, and from other experiments we see that it can apparently transmute matter, and it seems to transmute matter to stable elements, and that's what you want to do if you're getting rid of nuclear waste. But you need to have a process that is repeatable. Now, as we said at the beginning, you were able to replicate your work, so we already knew, you showed Mr. Possible that it was possible to replicate this process one after the other. Right?
Yeah.
Even though it was difficult.
Yeah, well, it was. Great determination and 4 warships. I'm wearing one of the shirts here.
There we go. Which
Helped a lot in getting equipment.
Yeah. And so you showed that it was possible. And that is the major hurdle that you have to overcome in developing any technology. You have to know that it's possible. And what Henk has done here is, when you look at the samples, you see this mesh over the surface, and in some places you see marks that are exactly equivalent to marks that were shared by Ken Shoulders in 1999 of an exotic vacuum object coming through the back of an aluminium plate.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
And inside you see similar things. So we're going to do further analysis on this. But the interesting thing was, I said to Henk, we can't really go public with this until you replicate it. So the next experiment, he made another pillow. It's not quite as impressive as the first.
Oh, wow.
But it's got this inflated section here and a little bit of a blowout here. So take a look at that, John.
Okay. Oh, yeah. He's got some pillows here, some bulging. Yeah, that's really cool work.
And it's weird because
Yeah,
for this to inflate like this,
Yeah, well,
it kind of has to turn to a jelly.
yeah.
Because obviously the copper in here is hot, it's very thermally conductive, and the way it's managed to seal itself around the outside is just crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, something like that is kind of very unusual and reminds me of certain things I've seen. And it's got some very beautiful patterns on it, too, at the back.
And this is where the plasma was moving around and
Wow.
in a vortex and so forth.
That's a beautiful piece.
Now, when you see that, we actually have from a similar experiment where we're just working with aluminium electrodes, like a large flat aluminium cathode and an anode above it. The cathode on the edge, the whole cathode has these spots all over it, and you can see these little explosions going on.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
But if under the microscope and under high macro photography, as you get closer to the edge, the spots get a little bit more sparse, and just near the edge there isn't enough. And so what I think it is, you need to have this kind of like, it's almost like a water catchment area. You have a flood of these electrons coming to an EVO launching point, as Ken Shoulders described in some of his work.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you are at the edge of a sample like this, there is an insufficient area around it to build up this density of the fluidized electrons, and so the edge doesn't get affected in the same way as the major surface. And I think something like that is going on that's allowing the edge to keep sealed, and then the main bulk surface to become jellified and move. And what you actually saw pieces of material really moving quite a lot when they became jellified, right?
Oh, of course, yeah, I filmed it, as well as others filmed it. It was a large pieces, small pieces of stainless steel. I'm trying to remember. Stainless steel and aluminum. Copper, steel, stainless steel. And these things would just move around like jelly, actually, or they would just bend around and freeze.
Wow. So when you say freeze, is that like when you
Well,
turn the energy off or the frequencies? Or
Well, I'd had the frequency still running, but the pieces would sometimes just move like that, bend around, and stop. Like, oh, okay.
So is that what's kind of happening when you've got like samples like this? They're kind of like bending around and then suddenly they come to a stop.
Yeah, this was on a milk crate and it curled up like this. And, well, it was a pair of, I think it's, oh yeah, okay, it's, I can't move it. Shears for cutting steel plate, or tin shears. That happened a long time ago.
And
Wow.
we have some samples from you like made of aluminium and they've like twisted and gone round in.
Oh yeah, a lot of those, and I'm out of stock on those. Those all went to eBay buyers because I was just selling it on. I didn't know what to do with it.
But the fact that those went out and
Yeah.
they seen a new audience in a new generation.
Oh yeah.
It's that kind of thing that inspired me and gave the data for being able to recognise potentially what might be going on in the process. But we're now in a state now with what Henk Uren has done in Holland. It would appear that he has replicated effects characterised
Good
by
work, Hank. Appreciate it.
by Ken Shoulders,
And Ken.
having determined what you had done, and not only done that, sequentially replicated the effect. So I think you showed what's possible, Mr. Possible.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Possible, yeah, that's just that, man. What do you require, Major?
And the Hutchinson effect, it would appear, is a real effect. And I think we're coming into a point of new understanding. And I am very happy to announce that I will be working on a book with John called Mr. Possible and the Hutchinson Effect. And we have started gathering a voluminous
Stuff.
plethora
Yeah.
of documentation, which when we're looking through some of this documentation, there's personal Christmas cards from Tom Bearden and there's notes from Uri Geller, and there's things like there was an envelope there that was from like NASA. And
Yeah.
it was addressed to you, but did you open it? Because it looked like it was still sealed.
Oh dear, it could have been. I got a lot. Okay, I don't sound like I'm bragging, but I'll sound like I'm bragging. I did get a lot of mail from NASA, Pentagon.
Yeah.
The Pentagon. I was on the Defense Department's SBIR program, Star Wars program.
Right.
And they kept sending me stuff, and then
Oh, not another one.
actually, the squirrel that lived on my balcony got a good portion of that stuff, and then and it was going after the CIA for UFO reports for a certain person that likes wanted to do a film on UFOs.
Right, yeah.
They were very helpful, very open. I said, yeah, you could either come here, photocopy charges, all this. I said, oh, I don't know. But I had to go through a privacy coordinator, John Amwright. We both decided, okay, we can buy the whole lot for $89.10. I had to get my passport notarized by and all that stuff that they like, that secret squirrel thing, you know.
Yeah.
And it all worked out fine.
Yeah, and I see stuff from Los Alamos National Laboratory in there.
Yeah.
And like
they were came with John Alexander and
yeah,
friends.
there's notes and letters from John Alexander in there. I mean, really, you've been about a bit, John, haven't you?
Oh, I've been about, I guess, you know, whatever. It's just part of life, I suppose. I mean,
Yeah.
but
So anyway,
I met really a lot of interesting folks, really cool people.
That is very, very clear. And there's this beautiful image of you with, I don't know whether you took it, but it's of Ken Shoulders himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably in Los Angeles.
Yeah, really, around the swimming pool somewhere.
Yeah, that was L.A.
Yeah.
Probably the 97 conference we attended to and that kind of thing on nuclear problems in Soviet Russia.
I think that
Unattended
your
use.
technology has the ability to release the potential from domestic nuclear in a way that removes the problems associated with the potential for an accident and the radioactive fallout from that, and radiation in general, but also remediation of waste. I think it's an important tool because it does consume matter and it does appear to produce matter that is stable generally. Now, there are other technologies out there, but I think they're all the same thing. I think that what you showed is the fundamental, coherent matter process that is underpinning all of these various technologies that give us the potential to remediate nuclear waste. And
Well, okay. I myself am still learning.
yeah, well,
I mean,
we're all learning, John.
You're one of my teachers. I mean, I watch your.
And you're one of mine.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it works both. I watch your videos. I learn a lot from them,
Yeah.
and I watch other folks' videos as well. And I learn a lot from different people. So.
Well, I'm learning what nature
Oh yeah.
spoke through your work, through the samples that we've had an opportunity to look at. So, John, thank you very much, Mr. Possible. It's been a pleasure.
A real pleasure, Bob. Really pleasure seeing you here in the great USA.
Yes, we are actually on the ground stateside, and we've got a lot of work capturing all these documents, and we're going to put a timeline together of what happened when, with your help.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's going to be probably a couple of year project, I would suggest at least, to get everything in order and making sense. But I'm really excited about the project. So look out for a Kickstarter coming up soon called Mr. Possible and the Hutchinson Effect. Thank you very much, John.
A real pleasure seeing you, Bob. He's an excellent cook too.
I'm an excellent cook. You're the best.